the debt of the United States. Debt means you are eating more than you are producing. You cannot do it over any length of time. And so this is, if you wish, not the America aspect of the United States, but the American Express aspect of the United States. There's credit cards galore, and the whole country is one major credit card. And who is holding the debt? China and Japan and Germany. They are the major creditors by far. I think it is extremely dangerous if a person consumes more than he produces for any length of time. If it happens temporarily, it's okay. But this is now going on for years, and it is resulting in a situation which will not be easy to reverse, even for a new president. It will require a type of belt tightening that I do not see in the world today. And so I'm afraid the fund for Africa is just not working. Go to Africa and see what are the conditions there. Over to TNEC for two questions from that. We will have time for another round of at least one question each for all the universities after TNEC. Over to TNEC.
My name is Natasha Sholak, and you mentioned civil society, which places an emphasis on the greater good. But how can people living in abject poverty and poverty participate more in civil society, specifically concerning health issues, when the most basic and important right is the right to life? So how can they work for the overarching goal of common good and still maintain their pursuit of self-interest, which would be jobs, because as you said, money leads to opportunity?
Thank you. Second question.
Good morning. My name is Afshali. I was wondering, you said countries put 80% of their money on research and development for the tertiary health drugs. Is there a way that we can change this 80% and put less money in these drugs and direct them towards cleaning the environment, cleaning the water? Because that's another key factor of combating poverty.
Okay. The two questions are linked. But as an introduction, I don't want you just to come out of this session totally depressed, because we have had some successes also. In fact, the greatest success of the United Nations as a whole, I'm talking of the whole UN system, the greatest success has been in the field of health, because it was the complete eradication of smallpox. Smallpox used to kill 3 million people every year, like malaria. And thanks to the work of the World Health Organization, even with its limited budget, smallpox is today totally eradicated from the world. Zero, not a single person now dies from smallpox. Now that is a great achievement, and we are trying to replicate it in a second field, which is that of polio. And we are on the verge of eliminating polio from the world. There are a couple of pockets which still remain, but hopefully in a year or two, I think we will have got rid of polio. So please note that the two greatest concrete successes of the United Nations system will both have been in the field of health, even with the limited budget on health. Now, so much for the good news. Now, the bad news is, firstly, you said civil society okay, but this civil society in poor countries doesn't even have enough food to eat. And so how can they stand up and do something? They're all sick and dying and starving or dead. How can a dead man participate in civil society? And you are right. But civil society in all countries and throughout history has been a factor of the intellectual elite. It's not the man in the street who is civil society. The man in the street can only revolt. He can come out into the street and rebel. And you have rebellions and revolts and revolutions which take place from people who are hungry. This is what happened in France because people did not have bread. And so they came out into the street and they said, we want bread. And there was a foolish queen who did not know the difference between bread and cake and said, if they don't have bread, let them have cake. And so the fact that bread can lead to revolution is a known fact. But that's not what we are talking about. We are talking not about revolution, because revolutions will come if we don't take care of the problem. But that's a very ugly way of taking care of a problem that can be handled quite easily by serious-minded, intellectual civil society. And that means those who can think, those who are educated, those who can organize. And and that's you, each one of you. You are civil society because you are educated, you are thinkers, and you have the capacity to organize. And you've got this extraordinary tool now, which is called the internet, which makes you extremely powerful as individuals in organized manner. And so organized civil society is what I'm talking about. And that is if you wish, the term, I don't like using the term, but it is an elitist concept. It's a concept of those who have the capacity to be educated, to think and to organize and to use the tools that are available to them. Not the man in the street. He has only one recourse, and that's to come out on the street and to have a rebellion. And I don't think any of us want that situation to arise. Your second question is about the 80%. And that because I know that 80% into tertiary is wrong. I can't force pharmaceutical companies. I can't force governments because governments cannot force pharmaceutical companies either. But you can. And that's where the two questions are linked. This 80% is a problem for civil society. It is not a problem for governments. It's a problem for how to get students and activists and those who are interested to work in the field of civil society and to say, this cannot go on, basta, it must change. And we have to devote more money. And you have people who are thinking along these lines. And Bill Gates and Melinda Gates and Warren Buffett are in the apex, the forefront of this effort to devote more money towards primary healthcare. And that's why the Bill Gates Foundation is not putting money into the sexy diseases, but putting money into the horrible primary diseases like malaria, dysentery, etc. Take the case of dysentery and diarrhea. We know the cure. It's a very simple cure. It's what is called ORH, or oral rehydration, oral rehydration salts. It's simple salt. It costs 1/10 of 1 cent to cure a case of dysentery. All that you need is to be able to mix this salt in a glass of water and feed it to the baby. And it's tasteless, colorless, etc. It's a saline solution, in other words. The problem is that mothers don't know that the solution to dysentery is so simple. They don't know because they are not educated. They're not educated because they are poor. And so a simple solution is out of the reach of people merely because of ignorance due to poverty. And so dysentery and diarrhea continues to be a serious disease in Africa and in Asia, despite the simplicity of the solution. Somebody was asking about drugs against malaria. Here is a simple thing, just saline solution to be given to babies. But how do you get rid of the ignorance? And how do you get enough packets of these salt? It's simple salt, it doesn't cost much, but you still need a distribution problem. How do you distribute when you don't have a public healthcare system? Because the country is so poor that it cannot afford or because it's public health